How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Great. Did you get anything good for lunch?
Yeah, man. You know, being back home has its perks. Mom's always cooking.
Yeah, for lunch today, George.
Have you ever had so Lebanese people, we actually eat like it's like raw, like it's like raw meat, right? But it's got all its spices and it's been drained from the blood and cleaned up. And
Mm-hmm.
we call it kibinei.
Kibbe.
Kibi, yeah, you know kibi, right?
I had kibbe before.
Yeah, so it's like the same stuff that like the you had like the ball looking one, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, so it's that stuff, but instead of actually being cooked, it's raw. It's pretty freaking good. I see Ryan in the bag going, "What the fuck?"
Just wondering if I'd be able to eat it.
No, it's like super clean. It's super clean. Yeah,
Sushi?
yeah. My mom spends 2 days on it, like just cleaning it, making sure it's like drained from everything. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's good. I couldn't stop eating. I was like, "Fuck, I gotta log in."
Here comes Autumn. I think, well, we got one more. Close that
Yeah.
door.
So,
Is there how many people in training, right? We missing one person?
Caitlin.
yeah.
Cool. Hi, Autumn.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Going good.
I'm Josh. I don't know if I got to meet you yet.
Oh, no.
All right. Nice to meet you, Autumn.
Nice to meet you too.
So we'll give it another minute or so, and we're missing one person, so we'll see what's going on, and we'll get started. Okay?
Cool.
You guys got your notebooks?
I'm gonna go grab my notebook.
What you guys think of the agency meeting? It was good, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was basically like all the others I attended, but yeah, it was nice.
Got some good fire in there today.
Yeah.
So awesome, guys. Just getting started here. I just want to basically, recap last week first. You came in on Monday. You got to hear, Mr. Vina go over the opportunity again. He talked about, what to expect pretty much as you go through training. Tuesday, you got to hear Casey Kunash, who's been in the business for, over 12 years, go over, how to get started. And then, you were able to get Vince, Drew, and Tommy again throughout the first week. Okay. Now, this week, that first week, you should have about 50 to 75% of the presentation down. That basically means that like you should be up to the needs analysis term and whole life right now. Okay. So that's what we're going to start on is the fun stuff. The second half of the presentation is why we're actually here, what we went and got our license for, right? To sell some insurance. So we get to go over the fun stuff today. And, what we'll go over is term and whole, okay? And then we'll go over the needs analysis and how the expert simulator recommends things, okay? If you guys have any questions throughout it, definitely stop me and ask me, but I'll always open up at the end for each of them, okay? So just one thing, being prepared this week, you'll deal with me, then you'll get Tommy again, okay? And then you're gonna get Gio this week and, Drew, who will teach you some of the EAP, okay? So basically by the end of this week, you should be completely through your 2 weeks of training, and you should have your foundation in place where you can now pretty much go out on your own and enroll people, okay? You're not going to be 100% confident, when you get out on your own, because that's when we're going to start our 100 presentations. These last 2 weeks, this last week and this week coming up, this is laying the groundwork. We're just laying the groundwork for you guys to build this foundation, and the foundation's going to come from you giving 100 presentations, okay? You're not going to know this stuff by the end of this week. I'm just telling you that. Just take as much in as you can, and then once you get out on your own, really start hammering in it. So, by the end of this week, you'll know your presentation. You'll be good to go with the 2 weeks of training. Now, how do you get out of your manager's car? You have to complete a checklist, and then basically you'll end up hitting your first milestone, which is getting out of your manager's car. Okay, that should be your goal by the end of this week. Hit my milestones. So, being prepared is really important. Especially starting out in any sit. Now, I know that they most likely went over that last week. So what I had to do is before training class came is I had to get myself prepared, to get the presentation up. And this is just a reminder, make sure your presentation's up. That's one thing, making sure your e-app's running, making sure your quote sheets are up, your Zoom, your camera, your background, all that stuff's in order. So that's very important to always make sure you're ready to go. Don't like they say we don't get ready, we stay ready. So like all we had to do was pretty much click the button and we're good to go now. So here we go. Today what we'll do is we're going to share my screen, okay? And I know if you guys are using the presentations, okay, the PowerPoint, then right after the A, B, and D certificate, it goes to a blank screen.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
Hey, you're getting that really, really bad static in the background again.
Oh, man. Let's see something here. Thank you for letting me know. Let's stop.
I know we had a problem with that one time before set last week, so
How's it now?
that's better.
Better now?
Yeah.
Okay. All these little cameras have microphones on them, so I can just switch it up if that happens. All right. So if you're using the actual presentation, all right, if you're using the virtual presentation, which I know, Autumn, sometimes you guys use the board behind you. This is basically when you would pull out your board, okay? So when you get to the blank screen, all right, now we know it's like pretty much the introduction into term life and whole. So guys, it's 2021, and most people we sit down with have life insurance, right? However, most people don't know what they got or how it works. So there's 48 different types of life insurance. I actually brought George on here with us today to name all 48 types, and then we'll get ready. All right, we'll get going for you. I fool around with the clients a little bit. I like to have fun. But they actually boil down to the two main categories, which is term, which is for the if in life, and then the other type is called whole, and that's for the when you die. So term, anything that you get offered through your employer will always fall under this category, okay? Now, it typically works in periods of 10 years, periods of 20 years, periods of 30 years. I'm just going to show you a quick example of a 10-year, $100,000 policy. So let's say you were 35 years old, George, when you got this policy. That $100,000 cost about $1 a day, $30 a month. Now, 10 years would go down the road and you would hit the age of 45. If you wanted to keep this same coverage that you got 10 years prior, what do you think would happen to the cost if you wanted to keep it? Do you think it will go up? Do you think it will go down? Do you think it would stay the same?
Probably go up.
You're right. And then what happens is it goes up and it doubles. Now, do you see how I asked George the question and I had him interact with me? Please pay attention to that. You want to make sure your clients are interacting, that you're keeping them involved in your presentation. So you're right. It actually would go up and it would double. Now, let's say they got the answer wrong. You're not going to be like, oh, no, you're wrong, George. No, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to be like, actually, in this situation, what's going to happen is it's going to go up. Right? And in 10 more years, go down the road and you're 55 and you still want that same coverage, goes up again and it doubles once more. And then all of a sudden you make it to the age of retirement.
Now, keep in mind, this is where people get their pensions, 401k, Social Security. They can finally start drawing on the money after all the years of putting into it. And then what happens with the term life is they either raise it right through the roof where they can't afford it, or they just cut you off altogether and say you're no longer allowed to have it. So we consider this type like renting, because families will pay into it over the course of their whole entire lives. They make it to a certain point, and then they got to give the keys back to the landlord. There's nothing left. Now, I'm not going to bash it, guys. I'm never going to bash term life insurance. It's great for certain things. You know, it's good for income protection. It's good for mortgage protection. It's great for debt protection. But it's not meant to be in place forever. Okay? So, the other type of insurance is whole life. And that's for the when you die. Because it's inevitable. We're all going to pass away. None of us know when, right? So the same person, 35 years old, their policy is going to cost a little bit more per month. But what happens is once you get it, it locks them in at that rate forever. So George, you can be 45, you can be 55, you can have a heart attack, get cancer, make it to the age of 100. It's still guaranteed to be there for your family when you pass away. It's 100% payout. It builds cash value, which I'll ask the client, and I'll say, you know, Joe, George, do you have a bank account? Do you know what the interest on your bank account goes at nowadays? It's like a quarter of a percent to like a 0.5% if you're lucky, right? Well, while this is protecting your family, it's growing your money at 4.5%, which is like 20 times the rate your bank can grow it. The other thing it builds up paid up options. So just like people pay off a car, just like people pay off their home, they can actually pay off their life insurance. So George, do you have any questions on how term life and whole life work?
Not at the moment.
Okay, great. Do you understand the difference between each of them?
Yep.
Okay, which one do you think makes the most sense for your family?
Maybe probably whole.
Okay, whole. Why'd you say whole?
I like the fact that it'll build my money in a 4.5% interest, and I can build cash value in it.
Okay, so you like the fact that you can build cash value. Great, great. Now pause real quick. Did you see how I asked them, you know, do you understand the difference between term and whole, right? Which one do you think makes the most sense for your family? The questions that I asked them, you should ask those questions. Which one makes the most sense for your family? Have them tell you. And if they choose term, give them term, ask them why. You heard I followed up and said why. He said cash value, right? But you want to give them what they want too. Like if they really want term, don't be trying to sell them all whole life. Like I said, I had an agent. He was like, he got in a sit, got out of the sit. I said, what happened? He said, man, I was going over that freedom of choice certificate, showing him how the whole life was working, but the guy wasn't wanting the whole life. He was wanting term for some reason. He was like, so I just was trying to explain to him why he needed the whole life, and he just told me he didn't want it. I said, why didn't you give him what he wanted? He wanted the term. So give term out too. If people want term, all right? Now, if they say whole life, which most of our members should, because that's the way that you guys explain it, you explain it so that they want the whole life, then follow up and say why. Now, George is a single guy. Why do you think he said cash value? Because when you handle single guys, you want to know what they want to know? What's in it for them? He's not thinking about anything else. He's thinking about what's in it for me. If he was basically an older guy, he might be thinking about final expenses. So just obviously, cater to your audience as well on where you're going at with the whole in term. Okay. Now, I asked them which one makes the most sense and why. And then, we roll into the list of concerns. Now, before I roll into the list of concerns, do you guys have any questions on term life or whole life?
Nope.
Everyone's good?
Yeah.
You guys all know? If I said explain this right now, we can all do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna do that next. But I had my script here, and I want to be word for word on it. I don't know where it actually went. So rolling into the list of concerns, basically when you're sitting down with a union member, here, let me see, just to make sure that I don't go off of what's designed in here. So here we go. Here we go. So right here in the script, when it gets down to this circle here, right above it, there's the introduction into this. So this is the list of concerns and the 4 main reasons people need life insurance, right? So George and Mary, over the years, we've all gone through contract negotiations and benefits changes. And it seems as if there's always a give or take, and we start to get less at the same time we are paying more. During these contract negotiations and benefits changes, the members, us, brought a list of concerns to make sure that we had something permanent and portable as a solution to protect those concerns. So the first area that we really dove into, guys, for you was for final expense protection. Now, George, did you ever think if God forbid anything were to happen to you, would you want to be buried? Would you want cremated?
I never really put it that much thought.
Okay. Do you know what the average funeral costs nowadays?
I don't know, maybe around like 10 grand.
Yeah, you're right on the money. Boom. 7 to 15,000. Cremations are about half. They're 3 to 7,000 right now. Okay. And guys, every 20 years, it's expected to double. Everything doubles every 20 years. Milk, bread, eggs, whatever you call it, it all doubles. It's called inflation. Inflation's what, 3.43% a year?
Mhm.
Every 20 years, it doubles. The law of 72, right? All right. So the next concern, and listen, if they pick cremation, I'll say, well, do you know what the average cremation costs nowadays? And I asked them, I try to get them to guess a little bit. Burial, I see what they say. If they don't know, I always go with the most expensive, which is burial. I'm not going to say, oh, you don't know. What's a cremation cost, Joe? 3 grand? Yeah, man, you're right on. I'm going to say, you don't know? Okay. Do you know what the average funeral costs nowadays? Going big, baby. Because it doubles, remember, every 20 years. So we got to project a couple years out with them too. Hey, Joe, this is expected to double every 20 years. You're 30. You can see this thing doubling at least 2 more times in your lifetime, right? So if it's 7 to 15 now, in 20 years, we're 15 to 30. 20 years from then, we're $30,000 to $60,000 for a funeral. The next concern they had was for loss of income. Now, George, obviously it's hard enough without you. Imagine without that paycheck. So the company would actually replace your income for anywhere between 3 and 5 years. Now, do you get any life insurance through your work?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Do you know how much coverage you have?
No, not really. I haven't looked that much.
Gotcha. Usually it's like 10 to 15,000. But you can pay for more. Anyways, you want to have anywhere between 3 and 5 years of your income protected. And you should know that if they have any through work by the family information guide. But if not, you can ask them again here. So 3 to 5 years of your income being protected. It's hard enough without that member. Imagine without his paycheck. You got to paint a picture. You got to be good at painting a picture during this. So I'll say, Mary, you guys rely on each other's income? No, you do? Okay, so this basically would mean is if something happened to Joe, that $3,000 a month that he makes is still going to keep coming home every single month for the next 3 to 5 years. Whatever you guys choose to protect. The next area of concern, guys, is going to be the mortgage. Do you rent or own your home?
We own
You own. Okay. How long have you lived there?
about 11 years.
11 years. And when you bought your home, did you do a 30-year or a 15-year mortgage?
30.
All right. So you got about 19 more years left then, huh?
Yep.
Did you guys see how I just did the math for him? I didn't sit there and have him play a guessing game. I didn't say, oh, you got a mortgage. How much more do you got on your house? How long have, how many years you got left? I asked him, how long have you lived there? Everyone usually knows how long they live there, right? And then I say, when you bought your home, did you do a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage? And then they usually say 30. And then I just do the math for them. And now I'm going to ask, when you bought your home, George, did you get mortgage protection in case of death?
I don't think so.
Okay. You would know because you would be paying for it. Well, basically, George, what that means is, Mary, if something were to happen to George, then I'm assuming you would be the one responsible for taking care of the mortgage?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Boom. Just showed the elephant in the room there. All right, great. So basically, guys, there's protection where if something were to happen to you, it can just pay off your home. And then the next area of concern that they have is for the child education and debt protection. Now, if you want little Georgie to go to school, great. But if you're no longer here, can we give him that opportunity to go? I always get a yes. No one ever says no there. When I say it like that, that's how I say it. So if you want them to go to college, great. If you're no longer here, can we give them an opportunity to go? That line makes me $50 every time I make a sale because everyone always wants to make sure their kids' education is protected. It's like a $50 line. If you can say that line, you make $50 every time. All right. So, college guys, you know how much college costs? You can spend anywhere between $20,000 and $100,000 per child to get an education. It's usually like 100. So these are the 4 areas that we look to have protected, guys. And they always make me ask. Keeping in mind that there's no right or wrong answer, but if God forbid you didn't come home from work tomorrow and you can guarantee that one of these concerns is taken care of forever, which would you say is the most important?
Probably the mortgage.
The mortgage. Okay. And why did you say that that was the most important to you?
Well, it just makes sure that if we protect the mortgage, they'll continue to have a roof over their head and somewhere to sleep.
Great. Now, same question for you as well, Mary. What would you say? And guys, typically I'm circling it on the screen here. Like when he chooses the mortgage, I'm going to circle it and I'm going to say, okay, well, why'd you choose the mortgage? And then when she says the education, I'm going to say, well, why'd you say the education? Right? And I get them to choose. Now, what I just went over with you right there is considered the most important part of the closing process. So if I ever ask you, what's the most important part of the closing process, Natasha? What would you say?
The 4 main reasons people need life insurance.
Close. You're there. You're on the right track. What did I ask? What was the question?
Why is this important to you?
If you can only choose one of these 4 areas to have protected,
Which would you choose and why?
yes. Yes. Right there. Boom. So it's very important that you know that. You're going to need to know that to get released. Someone's going to say, what's the most important part of the closing process? All right. Now, even though these are huge concerns, they wanted to make sure that there was something affordable and we could qualify for. So what they did to help set up with these concerns is your last no cost benefit, which is called your needs analysis survey. Now, Joe and Mary, do you guys have a financial advisor? No? Okay. What they do, if you were to, only reason I'm asking, because if you were to go to a financial advisor, what they would do is put in place a plan for your future. And before they put that plan in place, they would look to make sure the plan was protected. Now, most financial advisors charge their clients $600 up to $1,000 a year to do this for them. And because you're a part of the union, they actually set this up for you at no cost. Okay. So your needs analysis, basically what it's going to do is, I'm going to pull it up here on the screen for you, is it's going to take in consideration everything that we just went over on that circle. And it's going to determine if we have any gaps in your coverage. Now, if you have any gaps in your coverage, it's going to show you what it recommends. However, if there are no gaps in your coverage, nothing will pop up. Okay. So Joe, I got your date of birth in there. Mary, I got yours. And then we got little Joey in there as well now, you know, and you ask them that stuff. Okay. And then basically you fill out the needs analysis with them. So the top part here, just scrolling up, is for the health service discount card. Fill all that out. You have to fill that out before you move forward. Down here where it says needs analysis, that's where it starts the needs analysis. So we got their names in. Now we get into the questions. Read them thoroughly if you can. You know, it's not that hard to look at the screen and just read what's on it. So family member, medical condition. So this is just basically for the 3 on the application. That's the thing too, is most life insurance companies, they want to know about your parents, your grandparents. We only ask them about them. Okay. We don't take in consideration no one else. So any internal cancers in the past 2 years, breast, colon, pancreatic, urine, any insulin, diabetes. And I'm getting verbal yeses or nos here. Verbal yeses or nos. You need answers back. Cardiovascular diseases, heart attacks, strokes, anything like that? Any oxygen tanks? Terminal illnesses? Alzheimer's? Have you used any form of tobacco in the past 12 months? Exclude from application is if you want to exclude them from application, you just click the button. But you shouldn't click it if you want to get them qualified. All right, next section. Currently on probation or parole. If they're on probation or parole, just trial it, because they probably won't qualify until they're off of probation or parole. But if they're on probation for like peeing in the alleyway or something, you know what I mean? Like you could probably write them up. You know what I mean? It just depends on the situation. So always talk to your manager. Arrested or convicted of a DUI. Okay. Arrested or convicted of a DUI. So if they were, you just got to put it on there. There's exclusion riders. Sometimes you have to fill out a questionnaire. They don't need to be lying to us about it. Next is you and your spouse's monthly take-home pay. So Joe, roundabout, what did you say you bring home per month?
About $3,500 a month.
3,500. All right, and then Mary, what do you bring home?
She brings in about like 2,500.
2,500. Okay. You guys make good money as a household there, huh?
Yeah.
All
it's
right.
not
The
bad.
next area is going to be how much life insurance do you currently have through work? Joe, you said you didn't know. We're just gonna lowball and say 10 because if there's any extra, we'll get it to them. And then Mary, you have none. Outside of work, do you have any life insurance outside of work? Do you guys got any term life or whole life? You should notice by the FIG. By the way, you should notice by the Family Information Guide. So let's say he doesn't, and let's say she has a $10,000 policy her mom got on her when she was a little kid. Term life, no. Let's say he has, just for these examples here, let's say he has $100,000 through his car insurance company. How about that? All right. And then we said they own their home. And there was 19 years left. Now, George, if something were to happen to you today, roundabout how much more would need paid off?
I think around like 220.
All right. And then, hey, interest rate, guys, it doesn't matter what number you put in there. Okay. It does not matter what number you put in there. Just put 4.34%. Okay. And then look, if you didn't ask the mortgage question in case of death, you can ask it now. Do you have insurance to pay off your mortgage in case of death? Yes or no? You told me no, right?
Mhm.
And then how much have you saved for your child's education? All right, let's just say there's nothing. And then you always want to click checking. Okay, you always want to click checking. Now, once you hit submit, it's going to think, all right, and typically I would pull back my screen and I would pull up the mandatory read-off letter that their union has for them, okay? So you guys know the unions all have their own read-off letter, right? Well, I would pull that one up and read it. It is in your e-app, in your impact, it's underneath certificate. I would read that letter or it's underneath group info, I'm sorry. I would read that information to the client now. But just so you guys can see what's going on, I'm going to reshare my screen, okay? And look, down here is for you. See where it says summary? That's for you, the agent, to know where the presentation's going. So FE, what do you think FE means?
Final expense.
Yeah, IP, income protection. MP, not
Mortgage.
military police,
Mortgage protection.
right? So basically, this is for you to know what it's going to go over. And look, it's going to go over child education and everything. So you hit continue, the generic mandatory read-off letter pops up. This is if they're a child safe, if they're a will kit, if they're a referral. I would read this one. So, who wants to read this letter for me real quick?
I'll do it.
All right, read it for us.
All right. Dear member, the insurance programs being offered to you today are made available on a voluntary basis through the cooperation of your union and American Income Life Insurance Company, a 100% union label company with a long-standing history of serving union members and their families. We are privileged to provide insurance services to millions of policyholders throughout the United States, Canada, and New Zealand, and have more than $46.6 billion of life insurance in force. AIL supplemental benefits are not a competition with any group benefits through your workplace employer and can complement any insurance policies you may already have. If you choose to take advantage of any insurance programs offered through AIL, your benefit program is permanent and portable throughout your lifetime. If you qualify, your coverage lasts a lifetime and is under your independent control. Once the program has been explained to you, we're sure that you will agree with the many participating members that it's one of the most valuable programs you've ever seen. There are several benefits available. Please take a few minutes to listen to the AIL representative who's visiting you. If they can help you with your needs in this area, we ask that you please take advantage today. If not, we will like your feedback. So please take a minute to complete the report form so we can share this information with your unit to help us serve you more effectively. The reason we are asking you to make this decision today is that we may have several thousand families requesting our programs, and we can only visit each family one at a time. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you and your family today.
Phenomenal job, George. you got to read the letter. You have to read the letter. So just read the letter. When they're older, slow down. And they're younger, you might be able to go a little bit quicker. But read the letter. Make sure you pause at the end of the sentences so that it sinks in with them. And then right after the letter, George, you have to read off this mandatory so basically, right? So the read off letter and then the so basically right after. And do you know what the so basically after says?
So basically, you got to make a decision today.
Yeah, so you know the words?
Javon said it yesterday. He's like, so basically, what we'd like
So,
is that
Mary, here's the way that it works is if I'm going through these benefits and you're nodding your head thinking these are really great benefits, I can see why they had it set up and all the members were excited about it, then go ahead and apply today. On the flip side, I'm going through these benefits, you're thinking to yourself, wow, these are great benefits, but they just don't feel a need for me or my family today. So we actually would ask you not to try to qualify. Either way, yes or no, that decision does have to be made today during your service period, in fairness to all the other members waiting to be seen. The good thing about these benefits is they're pretty much a no-brainer. So you'll know at the end whether or not it does fill a need for you or your family. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Either way, your group still does value your opinion on our officer report form. It's like my report card goes back to the union to let them know I'm doing a good job for you. So let's examine the need for final expense protection. It's all you got to say. And then look, you guys probably haven't watched this video often, so we're going to watch the video together. You ready?
The warmth of family is one of the most beautiful and valued things in life. For this reason, saying goodbye to a loved one can be difficult, and even more so when we are not prepared. The emotional distress adds to the financial burden. It can be devastating to lose the family savings or even the family inheritance. The average cost of a funeral continues to rise, and these expenses can be higher depending on where you live. Keep in mind that funeral and cemetery expenses increase each year due to inflation and other economic factors. At 4% a year for the next 20 years, the cost of a funeral will have risen above $30,000. Expenses become even more overwhelming when you consider that Social Security only pays a $255 death benefit, and that's if you qualify. That still leaves all of the expenses for your family to cover. The last thing we want is to leave our loved ones in this kind of situation when we perish, isn't it? That's why it is important to anticipate for future events with preparation. Otherwise, who would be responsible for those unforeseen and sometimes escalating expenses that no one is ready for? We all want our last goodbye to bring comfort and leave a loving memory of us in the hearts of our loved ones. However, these good feelings can be diminished when we do not have coverage for final expenses and a burden is presented that could mean thousands and thousands of dollars. For this situation, American Income Life recommends our whole life policy along with the Freedom of Choice certificate. The process is simple and can be used to cover your final expenses up to the face value of your policy. Your beneficiary takes the certificate to the chosen funeral home, agrees to the service details, and writes the total amount on the back, signs it, and hands the certificate to the funeral home director. When this service is needed, the funeral home director calls the number on the certificate to speak directly to a claims representative. Payment is made directly from our company to the funeral home, and the remainder, if any, is paid to the beneficiary in a lump sum check. The decision is simple, and your family deserves it. Obtain final expense coverage, which allows you to have the Freedom of Choice certificate. That way, you will help avoid many problems for your loved ones. Today, you can enjoy the tranquility of knowing in that inevitable moment, there will be peace. If you're giving them the best today, prepare for tomorrow. Leave them only beautiful memories. Love is shown with action.
All right. So now you have to recap the video. All right. So basically, guys, what I'll typically do is I'll bring them back to me and I'll say, Joe, the reason why they had me play that video for you is two main reasons. One, it actually refreshes you on what goes into a funeral. A lot of families aren't aware of all the things that actually go into a funeral. You know, nowadays, guys, they say a funeral is almost as big as a wedding. The only difference between a wedding and a funeral is a wedding, you can push it back. Heck, you can even cancel the thing. But a funeral, you got like 2 or 3 days. So at the worst time of your family's life, they want to make it as simple as possible. And that's why they created your freedom of choice certificate. So like the video said, how this works is at the worst time of your family's life, not if, but when, they go down to their choice of any funeral home. Now, they're not going to go into that funeral home saying, hey, Joe had 30,000. What can I get? Because guess how much they would charge him? All 30,000, right? So what we do is we just put a policy number on the back here. It allows the family to negotiate the price up here. Once they come up with the amount, they fill it in. They sign it down here like a blank check. Hand this certificate over to the funeral home director, and they're done. They don't have to do anything from that point on. Now, at the worst time of your family's life, you know, they just lose you, Joe, that funeral home needs paid when, Mary?
Immediately.
Immediately. So instead of them bothering your family for a check, what they'll do is they'll call this 1-800 number here. They'll send out 2 checks right away. One for whatever is negotiated on the back, going directly to the funeral home. Anything left over is going to go back to your family within a week in a lump sum tax-free check to wrap up additional costs, take care of income, things like that. Okay. So, Joe, do you have any questions on how your freedom of choice certificate works?
Nope.
No? Mary, do you have any questions on how your freedom of choice certificate works? No. It's their certificate now. It's theirs. I asked them if they have any questions on how your freedom of choice certificate works, and what they tell me? No. So it's theirs now. It's no longer mine. All right. So now I'm going to pull up my screen, back up, and I'm going to say the expert simulator recommended for you, Joe, $30,000 of guaranteed whole life coverage in force to make sure that your funeral and final expenses will never be a burden to your family ever again. Right now, it's actually showing you have an existing of 0. So you still have a need of 30,000. In the expert simulator, it was actually recommending making sure you had that need of 30,000 taken care of so that your funeral and final expenses will never be a burden to your family again. Mary, the expert simulator recommended 30,000 of whole life as well for you. It's showing right now you actually have an existing of 10, so that you have a need of 20,000. And the expert simulator was recommending making sure that need of 20,000 was protected so that your final expenses will never be a burden to the kids again. Ready? Let's examine the need for monthly income protection. You don't have to play this clip. 5 years of Joe's income came out to roughly around 210,000. He has 110. He has 10 through work. He has 100 through his car insurance. He only has a need of 100,000. And the expert simulator was recommending making sure he had that need of 100,000 protected so that he would have a full 5 years of his income protected. 5 years for you, Mary, came out to 150,000 as well. You actually have an existing of 0. So the expert simulator showing a need of 30,000, and it actually was recommending making sure you had that need of 30,000 protected so that your final expenses will never be a burden to your family ever again. Mortgage. Let's examine the need for mortgage protection. Primary's Joe, just so you guys know. So basically, Joe, what this was recommending was making sure that you had the 220,000 you had left on the house protected with mortgage protection. Basically saying if something were to happen to you, it would pay off the house. It would just pay it off, the whole 220,000. And then the last area of concern is be child
As
education.
parents,
And basically it recommended $100,000 in place. Now this one recommended a 20-year term. See that? Sometimes it will recommend what's called ADB, accidental death benefit. So just keep an eye on that, okay? So $100,000, and the expert simulator is recommending you have that full need of $100,000 protected. So if something were to happen to you, little Joey can get an education. Now, this is typically where you want to stop sharing again, okay? So you want to bring them back, smile, right? But I'm going to reshare just so you can see what we're going to go to. Because look, you want to bring them back because when you hit this button down here, see this continue button? See that, George?
Yep.
When you hit that button, tell me what pops up. What is the first thing you guys see?
The total premium.
Price. It's the first thing everybody looks at. So, all right. Now, I ask you to stop sharing there because they'll get sticker shock sometimes, you know. You can go on and build your own plan. Now, if your laptop closing and you know it's going to be something reasonable, then pop it up for them. Show them what it is. But if you're ABCing them, pull it back, and then you have to hit next benefit, next benefit, next benefit, all the way down to where it says continue. Okay. And then once you hit submit down here, you can go to the super combo. But while you're on this page, you can make any adjustments and changes you want to make. Like, see where it says 30,000 over here? If I wanted to sell them 50,000, I can just go over here, type in 50, hit recalculate, and it will adjust it. If I wanted her to have 50,000 as well, let's go over here, hit recalculate, boom, it adjusts it. If I wanted to take them down from 5 years of income to 3 years of income, I can do that all right here. Just got to hit recalculate. So you can play around right here if you want. It's pretty easy, but most people like to get into the super combo. So before we go over to super combo, real quick on this screen, if you want to add coverage, you can add coverage down here for the spouse, for whoever. Waiver of premium, you can include that on the benefits. But if you want to check something else out, you can hit view recommended premium. So what this did was it took in consideration what they bring home a month. And it took 5%. 5% of what they bring home a month was $300. The expert simulator used $261.29, which saved them $38.71 a month. But I'm going to hit submit here. And then look, this is how you get into your super combo. You just click it. And it loads. And then basically you scroll down, and then these are the rate boxes for you to build plans. So this is A. A is for the husband, or the primary. B is for the secondary. Kid box 1, kid box 2, kid box 3. There's more kid boxes on page 3. Now, one thing I want to point out, see how this C1's not clicked? If you click it, then you can go in and build a package. You're going to learn about these boxes throughout the week. I'm not going to spend too much time going over them with you guys today. The purpose of today was to go over term life and whole life, the 4 concerns, and the needs analysis. So we just spent the last 50 minutes doing so. Why don't we take a little 10-minute break, come back on at 2 o'clock, and then what I want to do is I want you guys to practice it. I'm going to do breakout rooms here. Maybe we can split up a little bit. Now, George, if you don't have the e-app downloaded yet, like I know you just got your new computer, then whoever you're role playing with can just pull it up on the screen and you can walk through it. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so let's take a couple minute break and then let's get back on. And I just want you guys to each role play it like one time from what we just went over till what we just went through. Okay. And then by the time you're done with that, we'll be in phone session.
Okay. I got a question for you though. Is
Yes, sir.
Impact having a like a problem today or something?
I think so.
Okay. Because every time I try to open it up and download, it won't let me. So.
Understood. I will make sure that information gets addressed. And why don't you guys go enjoy yourself a little break, okay?